Hi, my name's Rob Ryder, speaking out of West Cornwall. So this video is about basically a summary of the series I've done with Patrick called Your Health in Your Hands, and basically why the message isn't a popular message. And I'm going to try and explain why it isn't a popular message. So if you look at Patrick, his work over decades now, not very well known. Myself, Magda Taylor of the Informed Parent, and there's a lady in Spain, where they're living now in Spain, who supported Patrick's work and promoted his work. Not Patrick, but promoted the information is given out. And at the moment, with what's happened in the last few years, you've got lots of alternative world famous doctors now coming out, some with some very good information. I think Dr. Samamat Bailey are doing incredible work, but a lot of the doctors, ex-doctors, or the health professionals that have come into this arena now that is kind of opposing allopathic medical science are still selling products. And as we explained, well, Patrick explained, especially in the last conversation, we have the fake health industry, which is allopathy. Then we have the alternative, supposedly more natural health industry, but it's an industry, or which industries are there to make money. And you'd have to go back to that video to what Patrick feels about, and myself, about this health industry. And it's you have to realize where people are. We've all gone through these stages of coming out of allopathy, going into alternatives. And so I'm not saying people are genuinely misleading people. It may be just where they are. But there are people who are heavily invested in the health industry with whatever their product is. And it can be almost cult-like in that it becomes, if you've ever met a religious person or a political person who is completely engrossed in what they believe, and you've invested your life in that and you've put yourself out there, it's very hard to admit that you're either wrong or not quite right. And there's more to know. It's very difficult to let go of that and pursue truth and just say, listen, that's what I thought then. This is what I think now. We've all been there. We've all, like I say, we've been through that process. Patrick himself has been through that process. Oh yeah, this is what I feel now, but you have to constantly expand. But when you're stuck and you don't want to expand, or your ego gets in the way, or you're financially invested, well, it's just become an industry. So there's a lot to be said about that. And the reason Patrick isn't well known is he's got no products, because he's selling self-empowerment, natural healing, and you don't need a product for that. The only things, should we say, he would promote if you feel like needing help would be things you'll find for free in your garden. And like you mentioned, you don't need to get any foreign exotic herbs and plants. What your environment grows will be for you where you live. If you go back to the conversation on food is a message. That's all it is. So the messages you need to survive your environment will be found in the food in your environment. Depending on the time of year, if you live in a variable climate, like here in the UK, we get definite 4 seasons. Then you have different foods, different plants that come out with different messages. So I'm going to mention a book here because this is somebody local. This is a book I got. You can't read. I'll read it out anyway. Get happy using hedgerow and coast for food and medicine. Let me take you on a walk for Ray, celebrating the life of one of Cornwall's most treasured pioneers of foraging, forest gardens and the natural world at one of his favourite spots. And that's by a friend of mine who came to Patrick's seminar, Emma Morgan, commonly known as Loena. So why have I mentioned that? Well, these are things that are for free. They're natural in their entirety. For nettles, it's not you extract something, as Patrick mentioned, out of nettles. It's the nettle, it's the herb, it's the plant. And I've got this book because sometimes maybe if you feel you need a bit of support, it's great to get the plant that's free and that's local, and I'll let the local message for your system in your area. So again, even a thing that Patrick would promote to potentially use is for free. All you need is you can study yourself for free, or you could buy a book like this that will kickstart you on that journey. So it's not a popular message, and not another popular message. People have to take control and self-responsibility of their own physical well-being and emotions, and stop complaining and blaming. Complaining and blaming. Listen, we've got a lot to complain about this system we live in. The toxicity that's allowed to be thrown into the environment, the oppressive rules. Yeah, we've got a lot to complain about, but it doesn't get you anywhere complaining. The only thing that gets you anywhere is self-empowerment, taking your own power back and making your own decisions. People don't want to hear that. And they don't want to hear that. And as we mentioned in counseling is great to process, to find a space where you are, to process why you've got to this point. But it has to be let go. And you let go by becoming empowered and say, no, where do I now want to go? And people don't want to do that. You know, people like to complain and talk and moan, and there's a time for that, to process things, but you have to move on. And this is why the message within Your Health in Your Hands isn't a popular one. The book isn't going to be a million bestseller. This series of conversations, yeah, for one part, it wasn't professionally edited, but we've got no money, and it's all about the information anyway. But we're not going to get a million views on YouTube, and I'm going to make money on it or anything like that, because not many people want to hear it. The few people that have followed it are the people that I believe eventually will not listen to me, not listen to Patrick, not listen to anybody. They'll make the decisions in their own life, which is what this is all about. Making your own decisions, doing what you believe is best for you. People don't want to do that. And that's why society is in a mess as it is we're passing on responsibility for all aspects of our life to other people. And like I say, in the alternative, it's not going to be a popular message because people have studied their therapy, maybe are quite good at it. But all these therapies were hijacked a long time ago. If you go back to the seminar Patrick mentioned when he studied Ayurveda, the mind was at the top and the physical things like food was at the bottom. Now you go and study, it's all about the food. The mind's lower way down. You know, it's all about diet, certain foods, etc., which are a factor in health, but they're not the major factor. You have homeopaths are using the allopathic principle, germ theory principle, and you may go to a naturopath or whatever who won't ask you about your life. It'll all be focused on the diet. So it's all about, really, healing is about the person. If anybody's claiming to heal you, I would really question what are they doing. The homeopathic message isn't about the message, it's about how the message receives. So the homeopath can't cure you. Give you a message that can stimulate that cure, but the curing comes from them, the person themselves. If they're not open to that message, won't do anything. So people have to know what they're doing with these therapies. Recently, I used a chiropractor who used acupuncture. Why? Because I had pain right down my shoulder, my elbow, my right knee. I'm a window cleaner. I carry a bucket and a ladder. And it was becoming a bit chronic, the pain. And I knew what it was. There was certain jobs that I'm just getting a little bit too old for. Walking down a hill is easy. Coming back up is hard. But you feel like a loyalty towards some customers, especially if you think, well, nobody else is going to go down there. And I was doing it longer than I should have, really. out of loyalty to my customers. But when the pain was starting to affect my business, I thought, well, I'm going to have to let go. So I used the chiropractor to stimulate the healing, get some advice on specific exercises, but I dealt with the actual problem. The problem was I said to some customers, listen, I'm sorry, I just can't do this anymore. I'm getting too old to go up that hill anymore now, and I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. So I had to be a little bit selfish, let go emotionally of that. That was dealing with the cause. And just to kickstart the healing, I went to the chiropractor, a bit of acupuncture, and I was given, only went once or twice, I think, and then I was given specific exercises, which I haven't got the knowledge for, and then perfectly fine now. So you can use alternative therapies as part of a healing process, but it's part of a healing process. Allopathy, you could potentially even use allopathy as part of a healing process, which sounds, that doesn't make sense because you're suppressing. But it depends where the person is in their life, their understanding. Maybe they physically reached a limit and they need some suppression to give them a little bit of time out. Maybe they haven't got the full understanding yet. Maybe the pain is beyond what they can bear, or the irritation is beyond what they can bear at the moment. So say if they've got a severe eczema or whatever, and they want to get to grips with the root cause and things to do to help heal, but at the moment they're not in a mind space. If you used a suppressive treatment to maybe give them 2 or 3 weeks of calmness, okay, you've suppressed something, you've potentially made things worse for the moment, but you're given a mind space where people think, right, I can just relax a minute. I know what I've done, I've suppressed that, but I can now make a plan without this irritation for the moment to move forward naturally and holistically and deal with whatever I need to deal with. So you can even use allopathy with a natural holistic approach, as long as you know what you're doing and you understand what you're doing. So it's not about saying you shouldn't use anything, but you should know what you're doing and how you're using things and why you're doing it. Ideally, you wouldn't need any of these things, but everybody is where they is. You are where you are, and it's not for me to criticize anyone's decision making, but to let people understand what their decision making entails. Just because a symptom's gone away doesn't mean that the problem's gone away. And as long as you understand the whole idea, which we've gone through in the seminar, to understand the principles of what's happening, you can make your own decisions then. Whatever treatments, whatever you want to do, it's your choice, but it has to be your choice with an understanding what's taking place. So that's kind of a summary of what we're trying to promote, which you go back to the talk, you've got the principles of life, taking power over your own decision making, and basically becoming self-empowered. If you want to keep in touch with Patrick's work, again, you can contact him through the website. So I'll put a link to the website below. If I'm not great on the details, like we said in the last talk, I get lost in the details. If you find you're ever stuck, he does via the Active Healthcare website. You can contact him there by email and organize a Zoom or something consultation. If you're stuck, which we all get stuck now and again, and I'll leave his details below so you can follow his work. At the moment we're finished with the series, who knows, something might come up that we might do something on. I know at the moment is in the process of getting published an holistic natural accident emergency book, which I think is a good thing to have in your toolbox. And so when that's sorted, I'll get Patrick to do a video explaining that. So again, that's another way you can become empowered. And so the idea is, unless you get hit by a bus, you know, like I've said before, stitch me up, put me back together, and then just let me go home, and I'll do the natural healing. But there's lots of stuff that we're claimed is accident emergency that actually isn't, because it's all fear-based. Everything's fear-based. Remember modern medicine, and this is all new to mankind. People have got on very well before modern medicine. And with modern medicine now being in the West officially the third biggest killer behind heart disease and cancer, doesn't take into account how much heart disease and cancer is caused by modern medicine and its thought process and allopathic suppression. So the less we can deal with them, the better. And hopefully this series will help with that. The book with accident emergency, when that's out, we'll try and get a video on that. That's another tool. If I can, I've got this book, but if I can find a link, I'll put a link to it. So that's only really applicable if you're in Cornwall and watching this, because really you just need your local herbs. If it's good to have herbs in your diet anyway, but if you feel there's a specific symptom that a herb in your locality can help you with, well, get the entire herb. Incorporate. That's what animals do. Dogs do. You got dogs that'll always eat something. Animals eat things sometimes that irritate them. I had inflammation in my elbow many years ago, which kickstarted this for me. Couldn't get rid of it, and I drank nettle tea for 3 days. Now, some people say nettle tea has got vitamin C, it's got iron, etc., etc. But also vitamin C is an irritant. Nettles are an irritant, so they will cause an inflammation. So you could see that as actually maybe why that worked was that the irritant part of the nettle stimulated a stuck inflammatory process and just kickstarted again to push it through. And I've never had an issue since. So again, a lot of these herbs can be toxic in nature. Homeopathy is toxic in nature, but there's no physical toxicity in it. It's a message that will stimulate a particular symptom to kick it on, as it were. So it has to be a kind of a toxic messaging, really. So that's a summary. I hope you enjoyed the series, and you can follow Patrick's work at the links below. And if anything else comes up that we think we need to push on, we'll put a video out. Thank you.